We've worked our whole lives, saved and invested just to achieve financial freedom, and been led to believe that instead of painting the perfect financial picture, everyone's plan is the same. But the truth is, no one is like you, and you deserve a financial strategy just as unique as you are. How do you navigate the complexities and volatility of a financial environment that just never sits still? And how do you find the guidance you need? Who do you trust with the wisdom to paint your financial masterpiece? We've arrived. This is the Wealth Council. Thanks so much for joining us on the Wealth Council. I'm Brad Johansson. A lot of you probably think that your biggest expense in retirement is going to be health care. We've got independent advisors from around the country who believe differently. Joining us to talk about a taxing time for retirees, Tom Mosley out of California, Derek Colton out of Oklahoma, Greg Taylor out of Ohio. Gentlemen, I contend that it is taxes because we're dealing with a government debt above $35 trillion with deferred tax money from boomers of more than $38 trillion. Tom, why are people not paying attention to tax time at this point, especially for so many heading into retirement?
I think there's a lot of people that say, what's your number? Oh, I've got $800,000 saved in my 401k. I've got $1 million in my 401k, and they think it's all their money. You know, you guys have run into that too,
Yes.
I'm sure. And you have to tell them it's not all your money. Every penny of an IRA or a 401k or a 403b or a 457 has to go through the tax system before you can spend it. That's going to be a huge expenditure. And here's the issue. As you're taking that money out, that's growing, you hope. And as that grows 5, 6, 7, 8% for a year, you are every year just increasing your forever tax in that 401k. I have a little slide in my presentations when I do them live, and it's like, warning, the following information has been known to cause hair loss, generalized anger, all kinds of things, and other symptoms indicating distress, because that is a distressful thing.
Greg, we have a lot of advisors, and I've said this before, a lot of advisors don't talk about taxes. We're talking about the most costly thing for retirees, and advisors aren't talking about it. Why?
Because they don't have a solution.
Mm-hmm.
They really don't have an answer, Brad, and that's really unfortunate, because what he was saying is an IRA is an IOU to the IRS. The IRS literally is a business partner with us the moment we put money in a tax-deferred account. Here's the really scary part. We call it legislative risk. Right now, if you have $300,000 a year of income, Uncle Sam's a business partner of approximately 24%. But just imagine if, with the stroke of a pen, they could change that tax rate to 35% or 40% or 45%. And if you think that's unrealistic, go look back at the 1960s, where the lowest tax rate was 25%. The highest tax rate, Brad, 83%.
Okay, Derek.
Yeah.
I like a sale. And I like to tell people at this time, taxes are on sale, and people shake their head at me. We're in the third lowest tax bracket in history, and that sunsets at the end of 2025. I don't think there are a whole lot of people that believe that the taxes are going to go down at this point. Are there ways, solutions for us in a sale time for us to make good use of what we're dealing with tax-wise right now?
There are, as long as you plan. But we can do Roth conversions for one thing. Roths, just to remind folks, do not have tax when the money comes out. And so you could go for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, then take the money out with no tax whatsoever. So it doesn't matter what the tax rates are at that point. So that's a strategy. We can do QCDs, qualified charitable distributions, which help lower taxable income. If you're taking RMDs, your required minimum distributions, and your advisor has not talked to you about QCDs, it may be something to consider to help lower tax liability.
Is this just not a standard conversation, Tom?
It's not. I just had a conversation within the past week with a prospect that came in from one of our other TV shows that we do locally. And they came in and they said, you know, you talked about taxes on your TV show. My advisor says he doesn't help us with tax. That's up to my CPA. That's the difference in a broker and a true financial planner. I mean, if taxes are going to take more money out of your pocket than anything else, you need to be working with someone other than the big box firms that don't like to do tax planning and, to your point, Derek, Roth conversions, because they make less money. Here's why. If you're in a 25% tax bracket overall, and you've got $100,000 just to do a round number, and they do a Roth conversion, they're getting fees on $100,000. If you help the client, put them in a better position, and you pay the 25% tax, yes, pay it early before tax rates go up in 2026, then you're only going to get fees on $75,000. And some of the big box firms will say, whoa, we don't want to do that because it will result in less fees for us. Hey, we're talking fiduciaries. Every one of us up here is a real fiduciary, and that term gets thrown around. But that's a specific example of doing what's in the best interest of our clients.
We go into great detail when it comes to taxes. For instance, 𝘰𝗵𝘆, the income-related monthly adjustment amount, is a tax on the Medicare premium. And it can be enormous, but it's not the end of the world if it's planned for. 95% of advisors never bring this topic up. I would dare to say that most of them don't know about it. So this is something that has to be talked about. It has to be planned on.
Greg, if we're planning on something like this and somebody says, all right, you're pushing me towards a Roth conversion, I can't convert all of my money at once. How do you put together a plan that says I'm going to take advantage of some of this now and some of this later?
We have to, and you have to plan according to the tax rates. Right now, a couple can have over $380,000 a year and still maintain the 24% tax bracket. Now, this is key. Now, you don't want to go $1 over if you have Social Security, and here's the reason why. In most tax programs, $1 more would just mean that higher tax on that dollar. But if you have Social Security, now you're taxed at your very highest marginal tax rate. So if you push that $1 into the 32% bracket, now your entire Social Security tax is at 32%. So you want to keep it within that 24% bracket, but for a lot of people, that gives them a lot of room from their current income to over $380,000 they can start converting now.
We've already talked about it, that there are so many advisors out there who are not talking about a taxing time for retirees. So if you haven't had your advisor talking to you about it, maybe it's time for a second opinion. Call a wealth counsel right now. Let's put together a plan so that we can assess what's best for you right now in a very taxing time for all of you. Call the number on your screen. Click the QR code. Let's put together a plan that makes it work for you before the rules change. The Wealth Counsel returns after this.
Think of how much you've saved in your 401k, 403b, or TSP retirement accounts, okay? You have that number? Great. Now, subtract 20 to 30% from that number for taxes. That's how much you actually have saved. Call the Wealth Counsel at 844-463-3466 right now for your free retirement tax guide. Your 2024 tax guide is free for the viewers of the Wealth Counsel, so call now, 844-463-3466, or scan the QR code below from your smartphone camera.
Welcome back to the Wealth Counsel. I'm Brad Johansson. We're going to take a look at maybe a few insights on modern retirement, because this is not your grandparents' retirement. I've got a few advisors who are dealing with people who are worried about where they're going in the next generation. Paul Roberts out of the Gulf Coast, Biloxi, Mississippi, and out of Kentucky, Kristina Pink-Kepperling. I want to go back to a study that was released, guys, just last year. I know you're not surprised by nearly a third of Americans believe they're going to outlive their money. That's the big concern. Everybody's a little worried about that. But 80% don't think the next generation are going to be able to retire comfortably. I've got more numbers on that. Why is today's, as I started the segment, not your grandparents' retirement anymore, Paul.
We have an aging population.
Yep.
We have the baby boomers. 1/3 of our workforce is
All
moved
retiring
into
at
the
the same
retirement.
time.
1/3 of the entire nation's population. You know, we have difficulties in sustainability with Social Security, and pensions are underfunded. So there is a lot of concerns for future generations out there. You know, how much will the baby boomers absorb and soak up, and what will be left, or what will the landscape look like in the financial space?
I guess
going forward?
part of it, Kristina, is that we were built on pensions until we changed the rule to go to 401ks, and now it's all different. But the concerns change as we continue to see inflation grow, the rate situation that we have, whether or not I'm going to be able to buy a house, let alone be able to have money by the end of retirement. What are you seeing that makes all of this so different?
Because that responsibility has shifted so much, I think that the worry has also increased because we realize that responsibility is on our shoulders.
Yes.
And with inflation, I think that if you just do some simple math, you realize how much inflation takes a toll. So for example, 2% a year over 10 years is 20%, right? Easy math. So your dollar today is only worth 80 cents in 10 years. That's just with a tiny little piece inside of inflation. That's not even compounding. I'm just giving you just a flat base out. So it's much worse than what people really realize it is. And so I think that realization is starting to surface.
Is the shift now in moving over to all of this, into these deferred tax accounts, creating tax bombs that a lot of folks going into retirement never figured into?
One of the places that I feel that the baby boomer generation was misled was with qualified accounts, 401ks, IRAs, right? We were kind of sold a bill of goods. They were told, hey, put money in here pre-tax, right? Why? Because you want the tax deduction. And tax deductions like candy to people's ears. They'll stand in line in the cold for a tax deduction, right?
Sure.
So we're all sold on this idea of take the tax deduction now, put the money away, don't worry about it, pay taxes in the future when they're lower. That's the fallacy with the whole idea of taxes in the future when they're lower. So we have been taking a tax deduction, putting money away pre-tax when we have been in the lowest tax environment we have seen for 100 years. So should we have been paying that tax all along, or should we have been taking a deduction along? I err on the side of we should have been paying our bill all the way through, putting it away tax-free. Our clients and people who have done that really have a beautiful retirement today, and they're not worried about the upcoming tax bill sunsetting going forward.
Because maybe that was a generation before where we were taught you pay your bills now. Now, when you talk about taxes, and we always talk about being on sale, and we like sales, and taxes are on sale right now, that's a logical thing that doesn't make sense to a whole lot of people because the rules we know are going to change in a year and a half.
They will. I mean, they always change. That's just the way that it runs. But again, shifting that responsibility over to us. I mean, now we're the savers, even though sometimes employers do contribute as well, or match contributions rather. And when I think about that tax bomb, that is such a great way to really describe it. Once it comes time for that to blow up, what's the best way to make sure that it doesn't completely keep you without money for the rest of your life? That's the number one worry, running out of money in retirement. So taxes are the number one risk if you really look at it. We
say in retirement all the time, it's not what you earn, it's what you keep that matters the most, right? So every taxable dollar you can keep is the same as earning a dollar, right? And in retirement, the game changes. It's not always about chasing the performance or going after. I see so many people come into our office every year that are chasing performance and chasing down the flagship, but they have so much waste in fees, commissions, taxation. So it's a very simple premise, right? Let's save a dollar. Let's focus on how do we keep as many dollars as possible before we put any focus into taking risks to make dollars.
Here's what you're going to say. It's not fair. You're right. And it's not going to be fair. But the rules are what they are until they change. You know what the rules are right now. So you need to play the game as it is. But do you have a plan to deal with the tax bombs? Do you have a plan to deal with your junk drawer? Do you have a plan at all? Or are you dealing with an advisor who hasn't talked about any of these things to make your retirement better? Maybe it's time for a second opinion. Call the number on your screen right now. Click the QR code. Let's put together a plan that makes your retirement special. Call the number right now. Don't waste any more time. And the Wealth Council returns after this.
Go Going on vacation is better with a plan than without one. Taking a test is better when studying than without studying. And teamwork is better when we share ideas together. Better is just better. And having a financial plan can create better results than without having a financial plan. With a tailored financial plan, you can be in control of decisions like how much risk you take, how to reduce fees and taxes in your accounts, how and when to maximize your Social Security choices, how to make decisions regarding legacy planning for you and your family. From building wealth to securing your family's future, having a plan is better. Embrace the power of planning with a written financial plan. Call the Wealth Council to meet with your own independent financial advisor. When it comes to your financial future, why settle for less? Choose better. It's your journey, your independence, your written financial plan. Call 844-463-3466. That's 844-463-3466.
Welcome back to the Wealth Council. I'm Brad Johansson with the Advisor Spotlight today out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, Gary Thurman. I love being with you, and I want people to hear kind of your story of growing up, because that kind of made you who you are. Take me back to 13 years old.
100%. You know, so it was 1986, and I never will forget my mother asking myself and my two older sisters to come and have a conversation with her. And, you know, I knew my grandmother had not been well, right? We knew something was going on, but as a 13-year-old young man, I didn't know what it was. But she basically was telling us the story that, you know, her mother, my mama, called her mama, was going to have to move in with us. You know, and I didn't think much about it, of course, but, you know, when I found out what was actually going on, I mean, my grandmother had Alzheimer's, and here I had a single mother raising 3 children, me and my 2 older sisters, and not a lot of help from my dad, so money was tight. You know, we didn't have a lot of money. Well, now all of a sudden, my mother had to quit that job, and we started living on my grandmother's Social Security check. Oh. She never worked a day in her life, so we was drawing off my grandfather's Social Security check, who I never met, who was a farmer in Dayton, Tennessee. So there wasn't a lot of money there, Brad, and it was just such an impact. And what I saw it do to my mother, that was the hard part for me.
You watched the struggle.
I watched the struggle. And then if I look 10 years later, I'm 23 years old, I have my first child. Beautiful baby boy, and we lost that child 8 weeks into it. Perfectly healthy, but we lost our child. So my wife and I at the time, you talk about going through a financial struggle, because guess what? We still had all these medical bills to pay. So when I got into this industry about a couple years after that, I was selling long-term care insurance and life insurance. That's how I got into this industry. And Brad, it hit me so hard, I went back to that 13-year-old child and thought, if my grandmother would have had someone helping her plan and have some type of long-term care insurance, my life, my mother's life, my sister's lives would have been different. And then I've fast forwarded to 23 years old. I didn't think about buying life insurance for my brand new child. But man, if I'd had some type of life insurance, because life happens. And it really hit me, and it just gave me a passion to make sure that families I work with don't have to go through what my mother, me and my sisters went through, what me and my former wife went through by losing our child. I want to make sure people have a plan in place for the what-ifs in life. You know, if you get sick, for your income planning, for all the things we need. That's my passion about what I do and why I'm so passionate about it.
To look at the cover, you don't know what's underneath. And this is why we talk about each plan being so individual.
Right.
That everybody has something that you may not have heard before. And to be able to plan for somebody's life because of what they've been through and where they want to go.
Yeah.
This becomes more special each time you do it.
Absolutely. I've been doing this 27 years now. And I thank God every day for the opportunity to be an advisor, because I love seeing the smile on people's face across the conference room table for me when they can retire and they can retire happy. And I have a saying, I want you to live every day like a Saturday. Every day like a Saturday. I love college football, so Saturday is my day.
Heck yeah.
Have a great retirement, have a team, have a person, have an individual who's passionate about what they do that you can trust to make sure you move forward with that retirement plan.
Thanks for all the struggles you've been through to get us to where we are right now. We're glad you're with us.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being with us. The Wealth Council continues after this.
For your free Social Security maximization guide from the Wealth Council, call 844-463-3466. Taking part in getting the most from your Social Security with this guide costs you nothing. Not taking part can cost you and your spouse a lot. Discover strategies that fit your unique situation and help you make the most of every dollar. Call for your free Social Security maximization guide from the Wealth Council, 844-463-3466, or scan the QR code below from your smartphone camera.
Welcome back to the Wealth Council. I'm Brad Johansson with independent advisors from around the country as we talk about the things that are worrying you and maybe we can help solve in your retirement plan. Joining us, Ben Fuchs out of Connecticut, and out of New Jersey, John Papa. We're going East Coast with you boys.
East
gentlemen.
Coast of the
You're
house,
representing now.
Yes, we are.
I want to talk about rethinking risk. Maybe we could even call it the cash trap. I want to go through some numbers because in 2023, a lot of people were worried about recession as to where we went. S&P went up 26%. NASDAQ went up 55%. Gold was up 13%. International stocks were up. And yet cash, up 5%. And a lot of people trying to play it safe got hurt in 2023. Ben, talk to me about rethinking risk. If I want to be a safe guy, is that a different mindset that I now need to have?
We're conditioned to want to put money in the bank, right? I mean, when you were an announcer, right, that's money in the bank.
Yeah.
That's the safe bet, right? And
Put it under the mattress and I'm good.
Yeah. I know I've got. My father would say, hey, you know, I don't. It's not invested, but I know I have it. It's in the bank. Well, that's great. But the problem is that's good advice for like a 15-year-old with a babysitting job. That's not great advice for somebody who's retiring. It's a whole different ballgame. And we can't get 2, 3, 4, 5% on our money when we see inflation going up as much as it has, and we see the S&P 500 going up, as you said, by 26%. So it's one of those things that has to be rethought and recalculated.
Have I created a problem by saying I'm going to sit back and make sure I don't lose?
Well, yeah, a typical retirement is probably 25 to 30 years, not 5, 10 years like it was for our grandparents. So if we're just going to park all our money in cash and be safe, like Ben said, inflation is running roughshod on your returns. So even if you're getting a 5% yield on a money market account at what they're telling us is 3.7% inflation rate, you're netting 1% on that account.
I remember in 2016, I met with a guy, great saver, had $4 million, really, really conservative. Everything was in cash, thought the market was going to crash the next day. And I said, look, why don't you use these index annuities? They don't cost anything. You get some gains when the market goes up. You don't lose anything when the market goes down. This would make sense for some of your money. This would be an appropriate way to have the opportunity for a higher rate of return. And he thought about it and didn't do anything. And then I met him again in 2022. And he said, the market's crashed. Because at that time, the market had gone down by 19%. But if he had been in a place where he was able to get more than at that point, 1.5% to 2% a year, his money would have doubled over that period had he been able to take some risk or at least been able to use a different asset class.
All right, Ben, you brought up something that we probably should touch on because we go into an annuity situation right now. This is a zero floor strategy that a lot of people have never heard of before because annuity has been a 4-letter word for a lot of people. If we move into this safety net, maybe cash isn't that way. Tell me a little bit more, John, about a zero floor plan where I take part of the upside, but I don't lose anything.
You're never taking any part of the downside. And Brad, the reason for that is, most people have all their money in Wall Street and they're not diversified. They think stocks, bonds, and mutual funds is diversified, but it's not. Every one of those products, investments, has a different type of risk. What we talk about as a fiduciary, we want to have true safe money options, which means I take some of my money out of the markets, put it into this indexed annuity contract where I know that principal that I moved over can never go down. It will never go down. I don't care if the market goes down 50%. You get a 0 that year. Conversely, when the markets go up, and it depends on what index you're tracking, when the markets go up, you'll get a percentage of that gain without any risk to your principal. So when you can divide your assets, truly diversify your portfolio, get some money out of Wall Street, get some money into safe growth, it allows you to let Wall Street grow and work for longevity, but you have safety in a good portion of your assets. When the market goes down, you're not affected. It's a great strategy.
I think it's a great strategy. I think the other thing that people have to keep in mind, one of the things that I dislike strongly are rules of thumb. And the 4% rule is this great rule of thumb that people love. But that was based on, at that time, 50% of your money in bonds and 50% in stocks.
Yeah.
And at that time, bonds were getting over 5%, which they are not now. Anyway, the interesting takeaway from that study for me was that people that over-allocated to bonds, even then, even when we're getting more than 5%, was that they ran out of money quicker. You need to be able to take some risk, but you have to have the opportunity to grow with the market.
Which is why independent advisors have so many more options when we're talking about zero floor, when we're talking about what should I do to be safe. Maybe it is time to rethink your risk. Maybe you have been in a cash trap, and maybe you haven't been talking to somebody who has all the options in front of them. Maybe it's time for a second opinion to get a plan together that's individual to you, that maybe take you into retirement the way you want retirement to be. Call the number on your screen right now. Click the QR code. Let's help you put together a plan. Let's rethink your risk. Let's make it better. Because after all, better is better. Call now. The Wealth Council continues after this.
Are you preparing to make your retirement funds work for you while not taking too much risk? While there is no substitute for sitting down with an independent financial advisor, why don't you learn the strategies of investing as well? Call for your free retirement investing guide from the Wealth Council right now to learn about investment strategies that align with your goals. Call for your free retirement investing guide from the Wealth Council right now. 844-463-3466. That's 844-463-3466.
Well, how well have you planned? Do you even have a plan? Maybe it's time. I mean, you work for decades building wealth and hoping that what you did is going to last until your last breath. You know how to work. Did anyone train you how to retire? Call now. Claim your written financial plan and let the Wealth Council help you create a plan for retirement that you've always dreamed about. So call or click the QR code. You only get one shot at retirement. Let's get it right. Thanks for watching. I'm Brad Johansson. Until next time, it is the Council's wisdom. It's your wealth.